Before I walked my first Camino, even though I'd done a lot of research, there were a lot of things that I thought were true that were not. So today I want to bust a few myths about the Camino de Santiago and share the truth from someone who has walked 3 Caminos, particularly as someone who's walked it as a solo female. So let's get into it. Myth number 1: there's one Camino and you have to walk every mile. The reality is there are multiple routes that are the Camino. And so they wind all throughout Spain, they wind all throughout Europe. And so you need to pick your route. And there's lots of different ones you can choose from and different reasons to pick different ones. But when someone says the Camino, there's lots of different things that could mean. In terms of walking the whole step, no, you don't have to walk the whole thing at all. I went into my first Camino really wanting to do that and thinking that I needed to do it for myself, and then ended up taking the bus a couple times and struggled with what that meant, but it did not mean that I was not a pilgrim on the Camino. The one caveat I would say is if you are hoping to get a Compostela in Santiago, there are some requirements as to having walked the last 100 kilometers of whatever Camino route you are on. And so, in that sense, you need to walk every bit of it. But if you aren't interested in getting the Compostela, then don't worry about it. And if you are interested in getting the Compostela, know that before that, it's totally fine to not have walked every step. My personal thought is do what you need to do to be able to finish your Camino, because I think that that is the most important thing, is arrival. Myth number 2: the Camino is unsafe, especially for women walking alone. The truth is, the Camino is one of the safest long distance pilgrimages in the world. It's very easy to not be alone on the Camino. And if you are a woman who is worried, there are some options for you in terms of making sure that you have someone to walk with. Pilgrims in general are very welcoming and friendly and supportive of people who are walking alone. And so if you need help at any point, it's very easy to ask for that. There's also a Facebook group called Camigas, which is specifically for women who are looking for other women to walk with. So if they're concerned about being alone, I did not join that, but it's a fantastic group and a fantastic mission. And so, if you are someone who feels worried, that's a good option. I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in a big city, so I have a pretty fine tuned sense of what's dangerous and what's not. So, in all of the Caminos that I've done, there were only a couple of times that I felt a little bit nervous. One was about encountering a lot of barking dogs, which actually were in a house. And another one was some joyriding teenagers who were still out partying in the morning when I left the albergue at 6 a.m. So if you're really worried, I would say something like joining Camigas, or making sure that you pick a route that is more popular and more populated so that there are people around you. But do not let fear stop you from walking the Camino, because it is incredibly safe. There's also police presence if necessary. I mean, they're always a phone call away. Be smart when you're walking, like don't take risks, but it's not an unsafe scenario. Myth number 3: it's just walking, how hard can it be? The truth is, it is just walking day after day after day after day, uphill, downhill, in the heat, in the rain, in the cold. So the truth is, it's not hard, but it's also not easy. And I think doing a little bit of training is important, getting used to what that much walking might feel like. But also, especially if you're going to be walking a longer Camino, if you're going to walk the French route, um, your early days will be training, like on the Camino. You're learning how to do this, and your body's adjusting and adapting to how that's handled. So I would say I don't think you need to be any kind of super athlete to do the Camino, but doing a little bit of training would help. It usually just makes you feel more comfortable and understand a little bit more about how your body works. Ultimately, I think the Camino is actually more about consistency than intensity, right? It's not how fast or how strongly you can walk. It's can you just keep going? It actually was interesting because I found some of the younger pilgrims I encountered actually were having a harder time with it than some of the older pilgrims who had done a little bit more training. But also, I think there's just something about the nature of people at different ages wanting to rush or take their time. And so, yeah, it's not just a walk, but it's also totally doable. Which leads me to the next myth, which is it's too hard. I'm not in shape. I can't do it. And I don't want to say that's 100% not true, because again, it is physical exertion. You do want to make sure that you have done a little bit of training and this isn't a total shock to your body, but it is not as hard as you might think it is. I would just remind people that pilgrims of all ages, shapes, and sizes are successful in walking the Camino. I am a larger person and I trained to go, but I still really got into shape on the Camino. I lost 20 pounds in 40 days because I was just walking and I was not really hungry. I did not curb any. I mean, I was eating all the things because you're burning so many calories. It's fantastic. Best diet I've ever done is walking the Camino. Strongly recommend. Um, but I would just say the key with this is really listening to your body and making sure that you are taking rest days when you need them, and not pushing the pace too much, because I think that injury is certainly possible. I mean, I had like shin splints and blisters and had a couple rest days myself. So it is doable, but you don't want to overexert yourself. So those two myths kind of go together, right? Like it's just walking, how hard can it be? And oh, it's really too hard, I can't do it. The truth is somewhere in the middle, right? Be a little bit prepared, make sure that you're listening to your body, know that it's not a race, it's about consistency and making it to the end. But I do think that the Camino is accessible to a lot more people than might initially consider it. So if the myths haven't scared you off yet, if you're still open to the Camino, and you'd like some gentle guidance along the way, I do just want to flag that I offer a free Camino reflection guide that's linked in the description below. It's just a chance to help you get more purpose and clarity and joy, really, from your Camino experience. I also offer one-on-one coaching. So if you're ever interested in having a chat about what you are maybe afraid of or looking forward to on the Camino, or if you've walked the Camino and you're back and you need some help processing, I'm more than happy to do that with you and walk with you on that. And so the links for those coaching sessions are also in the description below. On to myth number 5, which is you have to book everything ahead of time. This can feel somewhat controversial, especially given some of the busy seasons on the Camino Frances and the fact that I have not walked that route in, I'm just going to say, a few years. Um, but I still think it's very true, and I think you're still getting reports back from pilgrims that you don't have to book everything in advance. And I really would encourage you not to, because you don't really want to get locked into where you need to be. If you're having a bad day, that means you're going to have to take some taxis, or just you could easily disrupt your plans if you plan out too far in ahead. I am a proponent of booking like the first couple of nights, particularly if that just gives you more peace of mind. Definitely start off with knowing a little bit about where you're going to be staying can just help you embrace the reality of what those first few walking days are. But then I think just open yourself up to seeing what's going to be possible on any given day. I think being flexible is actually one of the gifts of the Camino. It gives you a chance to stay in different types of accommodation. It gives you the chance to maybe stay with different pilgrims you've met along the way, right? If they want to stop at a different place than you do, or that you were planning. So it opens yourself up to more opportunities. I would say even when I walked on the Camino Frances and it got busy, that especially that last 100 kilometers after Saria, I was worried, but I always had a bed. And so sometimes you can be a little strategic. I never booked ahead, but I started walking sort of off stage, right? Like I wasn't stopping in the same towns that most people were stopping in, according to some of the guidebooks. And so that helped. And also the municipal albergues don't take reservations. And so there's always a first come, first serve option there. So you can think about timing of your day and distance in that way too. So you can be a little strategic, but this is part of what I think the Camino provides. Like, don't overly stress about this. There is a lot of infrastructure, especially on the Camino Frances and the other routes as well. So I say plan a little bit, but don't book everything, and don't think that you need to book everything. Myth number 6 is I'll be alone if I go by myself. I would say nothing could be farther from the truth. So I've walked 3 Caminos. 2 of them I walked by myself. The third one I went with my dad. The first Camino, I had already made a friend on the train from Bayonne. And so day 1, I had someone to walk with. So I was never alone as a single female pilgrim. There were days that I chose to walk more by myself, and there were times like later in the Camino, like the last couple of weeks, I sort of walked by myself because some of my Camino friends had gone different ways, or our paths had split. A lot of it has to do with finding people who walk at your pace if you really want to stay with them the whole time. But yeah, even when I was walking by myself, I was not. I was seeing familiar faces. I was making new friends, and pilgrims are very open to, sometimes people want to walk by themselves. Sometimes you want to fall into conversation. there's pretty much always someone in sight, especially on the French route. And so you're not by yourself unless you want to be by yourself. And I do encourage some walking by yourself because I think that is a powerful thing on the Camino as well. But don't worry about being alone. You will make friends. People are looking to make friends. There are lots of other people who are walking solo who are looking to make solo friends. So don't let this stop you. You will not be alone. Shout out to Ashlyn for being my first friend from the train. Myth number 7: I can plan the perfect Camino. No, you can't. A, you don't want to overplan it, and B, there's no such thing as a perfect Camino. That's myth busted right there. I think a lot of this has to do with expectation. I think it's helpful to set intentions for the Camino. Like, what is it that you're hoping to discover or learn? But I would not really set expectations for it, because your Camino is going to unfold as your unique Camino. And that has to do so much with the different encounters that you have. You can't plan for that. You just can't. So don't expend the effort trying to plan it out, and then don't expend the effort trying to make it perfect, whatever that means. Which that's worth examining. So if you want some coaching, I'd be happy to coach you on what you think a perfect Camino is. But it doesn't exist, and don't let that stop you from going on the Camino, because ultimately what happens is you usually, if not always, have the perfect Camino for you. You have the Camino that you need at the time that you're walking it. And you may not, and most likely don't, know what that is. So you can't plan it. It's a gift. Enjoy it. So after hearing those 7 myths, I would invite you to take a moment to reflect and think, did any of those speak to you? Are any of those myths things that you yourself have thought? And with a lot of those myths are based in fear. And so I would challenge you a little bit to think about, if you did believe any of those myths, what is it that you're afraid of? What is driving that? I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to grab your free Camino reflection guide in the description below, and feel free to sign up for some one-on-one coaching if you would like a specific chat about your situation. I am always, always happy to talk with pilgrims interested in the Camino. And wherever you are on your journey, I wish you a buen camino, my friend. I'll see you on the way.